Hi there, Mark here again. Welcome to this video, which is going to be a build of this totally iconic Tamiya, the Lunchbox. I'm looking forward to this. I've never built one before. I've had a quick look through the instructions and there doesn't seem to be that many pieces that are going to go together, so I'm not really sure how many videos this will be, or whether I can do it in a one or just do the bodywork one separately. I'll see how it goes. But anyway, let's get cracking. We'll start on step one, where we're going to connect all the electronics up, and the main thing we need to do here is make sure that the servo is centered in the neutral position. If we don't do that, we're going to cause loads of problems later, so we'll just get that all connected up. So as you can see here, you need to wire up your ESC, put that into port 2 or channel 2 of your radio. Channel 1 is for your servo, and turn your radio on, and what we're going to do is fire it left and right a few times, make sure the servo is working, and just let it center. And yeah, that's all we really need to do. So with that in the right position, we can go on now and get this part P5 or P6 fitted to the servo. So as it shows here, get the servo with the drive on the right hand side, and then you want P5 or P6, whichever fits, with that tab pointing as close to straight up as you can get, something like that. On to step 2, we're going to attach the servo saver. All the parts are listed down the side there. If you're not sure which is which, match them up. They should all be to scale, so you can find the part that you need quite easily and quickly. What you need to do is get part P2, which is this part, and we need to put these BB 75mm balls like so. We've got the two little screws there. I'm going to put a little bit of thread lock on it. Give that a nip up, don't go too mad. Then you want part P4, which is the kind of plastic spring that's going to save the servo, hopefully. And then we need to pop this in like so. Then you want P1, which is your plastic washer, goes in the middle, and then whatever screw fits your servo. Okay, so once it's all together, what I recommend you do is just to make sure that the servo saver actually is working. So if you push it all the way around, when it comes to the end of its stroke, if you push onto this arm now, and you should see it opening up. So yeah, that's what you need. That means it's working properly, so it's always worth doing that check. Okay, so all we need to do now is put on these parts A4, which is simply held on by an 8mm screw with a washer. And it should end up looking something like this. Straight on to step 3. All we need to do now is fit the 4 body posts on to the chassis itself, to the bathtub. So there's one of my hop-up parts, which is aluminium. The standard parts are plastic, chrome plated. They look very similar, but as I say, it's well worth getting these hop-ups because I've been told that these break quite easily. So there we go. I've already fitted the 3. It's just a matter of putting it over the mount. It does locate on with the slots. There's a slot on there, or a groove, and you simply need one 8mm screw for each mount, and just tighten the screw up. Step 4 is attaching the servo into the chassis. So get your servo this way round, and it goes through this gap here, and there are two kind of, there's a square hole and a rectangular hole, which is where we're going to put the screws in, I think. A bit unusual, they're normally round, but hey. And you just need 2 3x12 screws with a washer on to go into those servo mounts. Okay, so that's the 2 screws done up. Should look something like that. Step 5 is just fitting your ESC and your receiver, which I've done. They just go on the back here into that part of the tray. Bit of double-sided tape fixes those on. I can't actually fit the on-off switch where it shows. It doesn't quite reach, so I'm going to fit that later. I'll make sure that I can get to that, so we'll fit that later on. And so it's on step 6, which is attaching the rear shaft, the right hand side. So you need the right hand side of the gearbox case, which is this one, and you need to screw on your B1, which is that little oil cap there with the 12mm screw. Just fits on there. Get this lined up correctly, and all we need to do is get your BS9, your shaft, and then your MG1, which is your bevel gear. Simply place that in there. It says to grease this up, but I don't need to because I'm using ball bearings. So one just pops in there, nice tight fit. One in the other side, and then we just need to insert that through the bearings and put a bit of grease on that bevel gear. Step 7 is the same but for the left hand rear shaft. So you need the other side of the gearbox case. Again, line it up with the diagram. A few more pieces involved in this one. So you need your BS9 shaft again and your bevel gear as before. This time you need this BC7, which is a spacer. That one there, metal spacer. Just goes on there. You need a 5x30 metal shaft. I think that goes into there. And that's going to hold on your counter gear, which is this. Then you need your 1150 bearing in one side and your little 850 in the other side, or the bushings if you haven't got the bearings, of course. Again, that goes on there. Like so. Your 1150 goes in the case there, like we did on the other side. Again, really tight fit that is. And just pop that rear shaft through, like so. And again, get some grease on all these parts. Step 8 is making up the differential spur gear. So you need 3 of these pins or bars, which is the BD2s, and onto those, after you put a bit of grease on, go your MG3, which is your planetary gears, or small bevel gears, but I call them planetary gears, and then they just fit into these slots in your differential spur, like so. Just get the 3 of those in. Then you need your BC6, which is the bar that's got the kind of 2 smaller diameters on each end. That's going to be the pivot for your differential, and that's going to sit in the output shaft right in the centre. There. And then simply slip your differential over that little bar. And then it's just a matter of putting the 2 halves together and securing it with those 3 12mm screws. But before I do that, I'm just going to put a bit of thick grease, AW grease, around the mating surfaces with the gearbox, just to make sure that no dust can get in and make a mess of these gears. So I'll just get that done now. So on to step 9, which is attaching the pinion gear, and looks like we're putting a motor mount on as well. So get your motor. It says use a bit of paper from the screw bag. I think any thin card will do. So that's just going to space the pinion, which is this brass one, away from the motor itself. I've put the little grub screw already in place, just lightly screwed in. So just locate that onto the flat and then tighten it up. Okay, so that's that fitted. It says about holding the cables down with a strap, but I'll worry about that later if I need that. Right, let's get part D2, which is this plastic part, and then you need 2 of the thin 3mm nuts, and go into those holes. hexagon shaped holes, and then you've got the two plastic parts D1. I think they just basically hold those nuts in place, so you just push those into place on top of the nuts, and they do kind of click into place. So yeah, and we need to flip that over so you've got the open side, and then attach that to the motor with the 3x6mm screws, which are machine screws. Make sure you use the machine screws and not the self tappers. And one in the deeper round hole opposite. Should be able to find that threaded hole in the motor body. Yep. And that's step 9. So step 10 is attaching the motor and quite a few other parts to the gearbox. As you can see, quite a bit more hardware needed. So again, match up your different parts with the diagram. It's all to scale, and like you can see here, these darker coloured screws are actually shown shaded on the diagram. So yeah, it's quite easy to pick out the parts you need. First thing I'm going to do then is get the wheelie bar here, get the BA3. You've got the brass spacer there that this part D10 goes on, which is your wheel for the wheelie bar, so I think that just goes through there. And it simply goes through there like that. And I think, looks here, we've got part A5, which is a plastic part. It looks like a nut, very strangely, so secure that on like so. Obviously don't go too crazy tightening that up. Yep, that spins freely. So now I'm going to get these parts, which is your D6 and D5. It looks like the shock mounts. You need your brass ball joint. If we get this lined up, that's going to go like so. Then the other side. And these are fitted on with BB3, which is like a partially threaded 15mm screw. Looks like it goes on like that. And get that screw through there. And then the opposite on the other side. So now I'm going to fit the motor, so you need B2 the right way up, and your two longer dark screws, 3B30s. Push them through the case, and they should locate on those nuts that we put into this plastic mount in the step before. Yep, so that's the motor fitted, and then we're just going to put that wheelie bar on the back. From this side we're putting the 12mm screw. And the 6mm screw in the other side. And that's the finished gearbox assembly. Step 11 is the axle holder assembly, which is basically just getting these parts D7 and D8 and fitting on these springs, which are a BS3. I think they go on something like this, and you fit them on with a screw and a washer, and you hold that down with another screw. But I won't be fitting those because I've got this 3D printed brace, and I think that I need to allow this to freely move up and down. So yeah, if you haven't got a brace, you need to fit those on, and if you're like me, you've got one of these, you can leave them off. So we'll go straight to step 12, which is fitting the gearbox assembly. So we're going to need these two parts. They're going to slide in the chassis here and be held in with two 12mm screws. So you just need the shaft, which is BS4, goes through the pivot there for the transmission or the gearbox, Put a bit of grease on the end there, and you need to put that one end in the slot on the one side, and then get your other one, get that in the slot, and then fit it into the chassis. Like so. It moves up and down, and just get those 4 screws in to hold these pieces on. Okay then, with part 12 finished, I think that's long enough for part 1 of this build guide. We'll start on step 13 next time and hopefully finish the whole build. All I can say then is thanks for following along, and I hope to see you on the next one. Cheers, bye!